What's up, YouTube? I want to start off with a short story that's going to set the backdrop for my vid. Men, we all know, especially those that went to college, we all know that if we could do it again, there would at least be one or two girls that we would have talked to. You know, maybe it was a girl that we overlooked because we were being immature about what we were looking for. And if we could do it again, we would have definitely hopped all over it. Now, I have one. And part of the reason to why I never pursued her was because when I first met her, she was one of the chicks that came on and was very vocal about what they were looking for. Okay, oh, I want a man who's this, a man who's that. You know, that super duper Boris Kojo, Shaman Moore sort of dude. Okay, but after that initial conversation, you know, we became friends. You know, we had a lot of classes together. We would study together. We would laugh. You know, I used to eat over there almost every night. So we had a good working relationship, but I never thought of her in that way. I was also attracted to her, but based off of our initial conversation, I'm like, well, I'm really not what she's looking for, so I'm not really tripping. Okay. Lo and behold, this girl has a boyfriend, or she gets a boyfriend, and the dude was the exact opposite of her laundry list of qualifications. Literally, he was short. I guess he was semi decent. But there's nothing wrong with the dude. Don't get me wrong. But it was so not what she said she was looking for, to the point where it's just like, whoa, I had a shot with you the whole time. The whole damn time. And I remember I had a quick conversation with her not too long ago. And it was one of those Facebook conversations, which I hate, but, you know, it is what it is. And we were joking around, and the whole idea of me never getting at her kind of came up. And she's like, yeah, you know, I'm surprised you never tried to get at me as close as we were. But I said I was also under the impression that you were going after a certain type, and I knew that I didn't fall under that type, right? And it, you know, it turned into one of those missed communications, I guess. You know, it was one of those things where it was over with. I wasn't really tripping, you know, she wasn't really tripping, but it was just one of those where it's just like, oh man, you know, not a big deal, but definitely if I could go back in time, I would have did it differently. So at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is, women will often create the ideal sort of man as a coping mechanism to deal with the fact that maybe they're not getting attention. Now, mind you, she didn't fall under that category of girl that most men were going to go after. It is what it is. You know, she was an attractive girl, but she didn't fall into that category. You know, she was one of those where you can easily see why she was getting passed up, because she didn't fall into the category. It didn't have anything to do with her level of unattractiveness. She was highly attractive, but she didn't come in that certain package that younger black men are looking for, especially those that get on a college campus. Okay. Because for a lot of brothers, you know how it is, you know, in high school, you were into the books, so you really didn't get a chance to go out and date and do some of the things that you wanted to do. And you always had to compete with, you know, the bad boys and the athletes. But now you're in college. It's a fresh start. Parents aren't there. You can be that quote-unquote bad boy that you weren't able to be in high school. You know, there's less of you and more of them. So for a lot of dudes, their first 2 years, they were going after all the chicks that they never got in high school, right? They was going after every light-skinned, AKA sort of chick that they can find. You know, and dudes that came from money was trying to be tough, trying to be street. You know, it was a big-ass mess. You know, I was part of that, but I was also a little bit too mature to get completely caught up in that bullshit, but it happened. So she was one of those girls that didn't fit that ideal. Not to say that she was unattractive, so she didn't get the love. So to deal with that, she created a coping mechanism. All right, let me create a dude that I'm going to convince myself that I want, so that I'm not tripping when the men around me aren't choosing me. And I know I said a lot, but that sort of practice is what we see when the conversations about not submitting to successful black men because they don't compare to white men, or even if, I do, I'm going to want a co-leadership sort of role. All of that is a coping mechanism. I somewhat follow the ongoing conversation between Mind Spirit and Solo. I've had my conversation with Mind Spirit before. I respect where she's coming from. Obviously, I respect Solo. So it's not an attack on them. It's just more so an attack on the topic. I think that whole topic is a deflection. For the last how many years, what has been the complaint about successful black men? That we want white women. We want our trophy. Black women aren't good enough. Okay? And even if they do choose black women, they only want, the Vanessa Williams looking, black woman. Right? And we're upset our own men don't want us. How come black men don't want their own women? That's the conversation that's been had for how long? How long? Well before I was born. Okay? So to go from that to now all of a sudden, successful black men, man, you guys are okay. Right? Your success is relatively low. So, I don't know how well I can get with your program. Right? And if I do find a decent one, I'm still going to want, this whole co-leadership sort of role, because you're just not strong enough or powerful enough for me to submit completely. Which is the complete 180. See how before it was our men aren't choosing us, our successful men don't want us, to now all of a sudden our successful men aren't good enough. Right? So I don't want them at all. Or if I do find one that I'm somewhat attracted to, I'm only going to submit to him partially. So he's still not even completely good enough. See that 180? See the coping mechanism? Okay? The fact remains that when you have women that aren't chosen, right? And I'm not... let me hold off on that. When you have women that aren't being chosen for whatever reason, whether it's something that they can fix or something that they can't fix, they're going to deal with that because it's very painful for them. Okay? So one of the ways you do that, like I said before, is to create a superhero sort of man that you want, that you convince yourself that you want. So therefore, when the men around you may not be responding in the way you want, you can draw upon that sort of superhero man and say that you guys don't measure up. So you're not choosing me. So it's not about you not choosing me. It's about me not choosing you. Or it's about me not caring because you don't measure up. And that's what you see. It's as simple as that. And it's unfortunate. I understand why women do that. But it takes away from getting at the real problem. Okay? Trying to connect the black women that are actually in the realm of what successful black men may be looking for. It's about connecting those two groups. But having these conversations, it really takes away from that. To me, it does, because it's a big ass lie. Like I said before, the vast majority of these women are going to fold. Let a brother come through that can actually sustain a upper middle class sort of lifestyle. Okay, let him come through and say, I can actually maintain that life, and I actually want to settle down. I actually want to be with one woman. These women are going to fold. They're not going to be worrying about his success relative to a white man or his network. She wants to be loved. She's lucky she has somebody. Now she gets to cook for Thanksgiving. Now she gets to go Christmas shopping for her children. That's what she's worried about. That's what she's concerned about. Now she has somebody to cuddle up with and watch movies when it's raining outside, and that she can't go out. That's what they want. They ain't concerned about, his networks and his success relative to white men. No, it's all bullshit. They're all trying to cope with the fact that a lot of these men aren't available to them. And like I said before, this is why I've came on and said that, it's not about black men being conditioned. It's about other issues that black men and women can actually fix. But if we continue to have these conversations, we're never going to get there. And this whole idea is one big deflection. I just don't understand how for years it was black men are too arrogant. You know, they're used to non-black women throwing themselves at their feet. So if we're at the bottom and we have the least amount of power, even when we do have a certain level of success, why would other women whose men are clearly outranking us be all over us? Why would they be throwing themselves at our feet? And this is according to what you guys say. You know, see, y'all not gonna fool with me. I listen well. Okay? And when I can see some, inequalities in what you say, right, from what you said before and what you say now, I'm gonna point it out, man. So anyway, that's my vid. I know I said a lot, but it is what it is. God bless.